This is Carolyn Jensen with Theater Knoxville Spotlight, and today we're going to be learning about the Knox County Schools Museum of Educational History. It's located at the former Knoxville High School building, and we have two of the board members from the museum board, and one of them is the founder of the museum. With us today is Benna Van Vuuren, who is the founder of the museum, and then Dr. Margie Coutre, who's a board member and a volunteer with the museum. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I bet most people didn't know that we had a Knox County Schools Museum of Educational History, but I'm glad to know we have it, and I've seen it, and I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Tell us how you got it started and a little bit about it.
Well, to begin with, I'm a retired Knox County educator, and my best friend is Beecher Clapp, who was director of curriculum and instruction for Knox County schools. And I was visiting with him and his wife down in Tellico, and as most Knox County educators do when they get together, we were talking about Knox County, and we could not remember what principal was where or what teacher was where or what school closed. And so I told him that when I got back to Knoxville, the first thing I was going to do is I was going to get all this information. And the bottom line was I called, and there was simply nowhere that you could get it together. And that troubled me. So I began more calling to say, couldn't we get things in one spot? And then shortly after, I took a tour of Europe, and of course the first three places we went were museums, and I thought that's what we need is a museum. And being a Knoxville High School graduate, I immediately thought of the old Knoxville City Schools boardroom at Knoxville High School building. So when I got back, I contacted a few people, including Earl Hoffmeister and Sue Boyer, and Sue Boyer was very receptive. And so she and I began to put together an idea and approach Roy Mullins, that's been around Knox County a long, long time, and he was very receptive. And so he gave us the boardroom to start it in and suggested we get a committee together, which we did. And we met early, I guess in January of 2006, and believe it or not, we opened that museum in September of that year.
That's an amazing story, and we're glad you went on that trip to Europe and got it started.
Yeah.
And I know that Margie is a volunteer, works in the museum on a volunteer basis.
Right.
Both of you are former principals in the Knox County system. You were at
I was at the old school of Amherst
and
Asbury.
And Asbury.
Both old schools.
And Dr. Coutre was at?
Well, I was at in the city until it was taken over by the county in 1986. And I began at Giffen Elementary out in South Knoxville, and then went to Alice Bell in North Knoxville, and then I went over to Cedar Bluff Intermediate in West Knoxville, and then I went to Ridgedale Elementary on Western Avenue, and I'm not sure what that's considered, west, north, east, or south.
Yeah.
But they were wonderful schools, and I enjoyed it, and I have enjoyed working with the city school system and the county. But this museum is just filled with information for everybody, and it's closed the schools that we didn't even know existed, and it's also schools that are open now. And we have a notebook that we keep on all of the schools, and just happen to have this one from the Ridgedale, and it's closed, and it has history items in it. And Ms. Van Buren clips, she has a notebook that newspapers that she clips religiously to be sure that we're current on the schools that are still doing things. Then we have the high school. This is East High School, which came out of the old Knoxville High School program. Matter of fact, when I was asked to get the principals, and there were only 3 principals, but they have a long time of
Yes.
there, and so from 1951 to 1967, there were 3 principals who
And we
served
know
there.
those names.
Oh,
Mr.
absolutely.
Evans and
W.
Dale Gardner and Buford Bible.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we
Right.
know those
Right.
names. Those
But,
are,
you know, to see it now and to keep it in forefront, it does keep their memory alive and their contribution to our educational systems.
I was so excited to be there and to know that you could look up the schools you had gone to and see what was there.
Right.
And I do recommend that you go visit the museum, maybe take your church group or your garden club or a neighborhood group, and tell us the hours of the museum.
Currently, it is open on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2 to 5.
And maybe if you'd like to get more information, it might be good to call Benna, and she can give you information about that, and her telephone is 992-1062. Now, you all brought with us today for us to see several things, so tell us what you have. Behind us is a collage about South High School.
Right. And the idea of the museum is to collect, preserve, and make available immediately everything that we collect. So if you go into the museum, the first thing that you're going to see is the books, as Margie mentioned, and then we have shelves where we have collected the principals and their resumes or biographies, in some cases obituaries. And then we have a section for the Knoxville City Schools, and as well as the county, and it shows the superintendents of, thank you. This is Knox County, and you see we don't have too many pictures, and this is the city of Knoxville. And we have, not all of them, but we've just received the latest one from Dr. Fred Bedell. So we try to cover personnel because we don't want those educators to be forgotten. And we try to cover the schools and to also to collect historical documents such as the superintendent's annual reports, and we have some of those dating back to 1895 and
That's amazing.
earlier.
That is.
And of course, memorabilia is always very fascinating. And Margie mentioned the 2 bells. This is the Amherst bell, which I rang many times to get the students' attention. And this one is from Vestal.
Oh,
And it's
Okay.
cracked. Look
It's
at
cracked.
that. They rang it so much that
And
they
that
cracked it.
belonged to, both of them belong to Mildred E. Doyle because she was principal of Vestal School, and it was always her school, whoever was principal there.
and she was quite an educator.
Yes.
And Margie, you have a
Well, we have some verbal information as well. We have some DVDs with, we've taken interviewing different personnel in the systems, both systems. This just happens to be Dr. Paul Kelly and Tom Underwood, and they've given us some invaluable information about the time they served in their capacity with the system.
Oh, I think it's wonderful history, and I don't know if we said that this is a project of the Retired Teachers Association.
Well, they have sponsored us.
Sponsored.
But I would also like to say that, you know, they gave us $1,000, which was wonderful. And of course, Roy saw that we had furniture and so forth. And then we've had some generous donations from Beecher Clapp, from Paul Kelly, and Tom Underwood has been invaluable in gathering up things for us as well as contributing. So, and the people on the board are like Margie. We're all trying to make this successful.
Well, you all are doing a great job.
And sorry.
And I think it's interesting to see it, and I encourage people to go see it. And there's some ways that they can help you. I know that the day I was there with the Knoxville High Reunion, somebody brought an old annual dating
That's right.
back to the 30s maybe,
Yes.
or maybe
Yes,
earlier.
earlier.
If you have something like that, you can donate that to the museum, and it would be kept where people can see it and look at it. You can come and be a volunteer there, donate your
right.
time, help them by typing or filing or doing displays. you can donate items to the museum, and maybe there are other things you'd like to mention.
Well, yes, if you have photographs and you don't want to part with them, if you will bring them over, we'll make a copy of them. And we also have asked people to write up maybe their own experiences as a child at different schools, and we'd like to include that in the history, because that's living history.
Oh, that is living history.
You're just sure that you're there. I would like to mention that from this view, you can see Miss Doyle at the background.
And what an educator.
And she was she is my inspiration.
Yes.
When I'm there alone, I look up and I hope that she'll be pleased by what we're all doing. And Earl Hoffmeister has also been very supportive, and of course Dr. McIntyre has been over and he's lent his support, and it goes without speaking that Roy Mullins would be behind us. Dr. Lindsay was the superintendent when we began, and he was very supportive. And there are other things in that building. The GED program and the adult high school are part of that building, so it's a living building. And the big day that we had was the 100th celebration of Knoxville High School building, as well as, of course, the school itself. And we had over 300 people come through the museum that day.
You could hardly move.
And it was wonderful. And we handed out brochures, tried to answer everyone's questions, and just so glad that they came. And I would like to invite everyone, come over, and you may find yourself spending the afternoon going through an annual to find pictures of your mother or your school friends.
And I noticed you have an Adopt a School program where you could choose a particular school you're interested in,
Right.
and bring things.
Yeah.
Margie, I know you've been in education a long time. The changes that are happening,
That's true.
you've seen lots of them.
Matter of fact, I interviewed Tom Underwood, and he and I chatted back and forth about the changes that he'd seen. And of course, he's still involved with the credit union, but he still sees all the things that are changing. And you know, the bottom line, money. We still do not have enough money for education, and that's something that everybody receives.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we.
And you all are certainly good advocates for that, and the museum is certainly a good advocate. I do encourage people to go see it. I encourage them to go see the school. It's a beautiful architectural.
And many of the schools have heritage rooms now. So that's one thing we're encouraging.
Yeah. Thank you both for coming and sharing all of these treasures with us, and for doing the museum, and for keeping it going and volunteering, and we encourage people to come and help you.
Well, please come back for another visit.
Good.
Yes.
This has been Carolyn Jensen with Theater Knoxville Spotlight. Today we've been talking to Benna Van Vuuren, the founder of the Knoxville County Schools Museum of Educational History, and Dr. Margie Coutre, a board member from the museum board.